everybody. My name is Estelle Pedersen. I am a romance author, and today I am interviewing two wonderful authors, DL Croisette from Canada and Gala Russ from the US. So welcome.
Hello.
Hi. I will start with you, DL Croisette. If you could tell me a little bit about yourself and your writing journey.
Sure. I've been writing, well, for my whole entire life, I've been writing something, or I've been creating characters in my head, or telling stories ad nauseum to my friends and family who, sometimes at parties, they like the stories. Just stop, please. So, so I've been writing for a while, but in the last 3 years, I turned my head to romance writing and fell in love with it, pardon the pun. And so I write contemporary new adult romances with, I hope, bold and sultry storylines. And I try to focus on courageous, confident females that are, in relationships with loyal, intrepid, nice men. That's me.
I like that. I like nice men. I think we need more nice men.
Yeah, there's lots of bad boys out there. Someone's already doing that, so I'm just trying something a little different.
Yeah. And what books are you currently working on?
So I have a collection called my Ruby Red Romances collection. It started with, shockingly, Ruby Red, the first book, but it's turned into a whole universe. And I am actually starting the 7th book in that series, and it's called Black Hearted. It is the villain from the original Ruby Red series, and I use the villain, very loosely. And I'm going to try and redeem him. Imagine that. So I am kind of dipping a little bit into the bad boy world, but I'm going to give him a heart and soul and make him leap off the page more than he did, hopefully, in the first book.
I remember him very well from the first book.
Yeah.
Very bad boy.
Yes, he does some naughty things, but we're gonna hopefully redeem him. We'll see.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about the protagonist in Ruby Red?
Sure. Yeah. So it's Allie Stinson, and she's 24 years old, and unfortunately recently divorced to Jack, the villain that we were just talking about, from Jack, excuse me, not to Jack. She was married to him, but she is divorced from him. Get my words right there. And she's a bold and very you think independent woman when you first meet her. Like the first few chapters, you're like, people have called her a vixen, which I'm not sure that I would call her a vixen, but people, when the first few chapters, they're like, oh, this is what this book is going to be about. And then you peek inside Allie and you get a very different perspective, and you find out that she's actually someone who is desperately alone, and there are reasons for that, and puts on this armor of fashion and makeup that she wears around the world. And someone comes along and wants to take down that armor and take it away. So that's what she's like.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. It's I'm not going to say too much because I'm on the 3rd book of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it just
Yay.
gets better and better.
Thank you.
I love the character development, and I love her hero. He's one of the most. I felt that he was really wholesome.
Yeah,
they were right for each other.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So
a lot of people like Sam. A lot of people think that Sam is almost a little too perfect. So I try to scuff him up every now and again and give him some flaws. In the first book, he's pretty good in the first book. Let me tell you, he was kind of like my ideal guy in a way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I reread the first 3 chapters last night, and I was like, oh, I was hot under the collar.
Yeah, it starts off with a bang.
It does. Yeah. Gala, if you could tell me a little bit about yourself, your writer's journey, where you started, what inspired you to write, and what you're doing today.
Thanks, Estelle. I started writing fiction almost 2 years ago, and my mom passed away almost 4 years ago. And as part of cleaning out her apartment, I inherited a whole box of stuff that she wrote. And she was a writer and a poet, and she had one book published. And I was the first year not even looking at anything of hers, but the second year I started looking at a lot of handwritten notes and a lot of stuff that she wrote that was kind of piecemeal. And she always wrote her first drafts by hand that she never put together. And I had that idea that I'm going to translate her book, which I never did. But I decided to start small. So I actually started translating some of her shorter stories and some of her poetry into English. And that was the first time I was, you can't even call it writing nonfiction, but I started writing in English, and I loved it. Like, it turned out that was such an exhilarating feeling, and afterwards started writing things that were kind of an interpretation of what I saw her do or what her work was invoking in me. So it was a lot of sad stuff.
What kind of work? She wrote poems, is that correct?
Yeah, she wrote a lot of poetry. The only book that she actually had published is sort of like Mark Levine type of thing, where she's like a travelogue, or Eat, Pray, Love type of a thing, where the main character travels to Paris, and it kind of shows a slice of her life and how that trip changes her life. But she wrote all different stuff, and once I started writing that, translating that, and kind of getting that, I had, like, in parallel, started being part of Toastmasters. Mm-hmm. For work reasons, which is a club that helps you be more of an oral storyteller and be comfortable presenting and speaking in front of rooms of live people, which I desperately needed at that point. It was I was sweating and stumbling, and it was really, really hard for me to talk in front of an audience. And then I also joined a book club, and we were having a lot of discussions, and one of my book club mates said, "Hey, your reviews are always so great. You're like, have you ever tried writing yourself?" So all of those things came together kind of across a year or two. They were piling up. And eventually I had the two characters talking to me for a couple of months in my head. And that has never happened to me before, to that intensity. And I think because I was in this process of writing and translating my mom's stuff, I was in the space where I could start, and I did. But I am a very communal person, so I can't write by myself, and that's why I think DL and me work so well together. So I found Wattpad, and I started posting stuff on Wattpad, and it was god awful. It was horrible, but it was a start.
Yeah,
and that got me to, like, write nonfiction. Sorry, that was a long spiel.
But Wattpad was how you met DL Croisette, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
I met her. We don't know exactly how we met. So I started in November 2012, and we for sure have messages between us in like April or May of 2020. Mm-hmm. So we probably met somewhere around then, or maybe a little bit earlier. I think I met her because I was applying to a lot of different competitions, and I think she was in one of the competitions, and I went to her profile and I was reading Ruby Red, and I liked it. And usually when I like something, I start commenting on it, and I think that's how we started. Mm-hmm. She thinks I found her quotes book first, which is also possible, but that's how we got together.
Uh-huh. Yep. Wow. So, and then I won't go, I just want to ask you a few questions about yourself before we talk about Willa Drew. I see that you have a love series on Wattpad. Is that correct?
I have Love in Chicago series, and
Mm-hmm.
the very first book, Love Novice, was the very first book that I wrote.
Uh-huh.
That's, I think, a second draft that is there. The final draft, DL read that one, is actually in first person present tense. I
Yeah.
think the very first one was third person past tense, then I did
Uh-huh.
first person past tense, and then I moved to first person present tense.
Yeah.
And then that created the universe that the rest of them are in, and there are going to be 4 more at least.
Okay. Yeah. And why romance of all genres? And I also saw that you have the collection of poems. That's from your mother, that's correct?
Some of them are, at this point, most of them are mine. I think I have maybe 3 or 4
Yeah.
things there of hers, and usually in the title I write, this was a translation of my mom's work, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the stuff is my stuff at this point.
Yeah.
But it's how it started, yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got a couple of other things as well, like a bit of editing advice, which we all need from time to time. For me, it's every day. So,
I love English. Yeah, I love English, and I love the languages in general and linguistics. And I did ESL English as a second language as my bachelor's degree, and I've been studying English for, I don't know, I'm going to age myself. Let's say more than a decade, maybe more than 2 decades.
and DL Croisette, you have what I love about going to Instagram, and I don't like social media. I really detest it. I shouldn't say that, but it's not one of my strong points. The one thing that keeps me coming back to Instagram are your posts of advice.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have inspired me. They have dragged me out of the mud. They're fantastic. What inspires you to put those posts out?
Well, this is going to sound so corny, so, but here we go. I love words, and I really love words. I love individual words. I love putting them together in a string, in a sentence, and all that kind of stuff. So all my life, I've been very drawn to, great quotes, great strings of words together type thing. So, and then I started when I decided that I wanted to really seriously write and put stuff up on Wattpad instead of just my, fooling around stuff. I needed help. I didn't know that I didn't know the show not tell rule. I didn't know certain things about how to write. I just wrote from the gut, so to speak, and made a lot of mistakes. So I started looking around for help. And one of the ways that I found help, because I'm drawn to words, is quotes from famous authors talking about how they write, or, the exclamation point and things like that. So I just started gathering all of these up, and then I'm like, maybe someone else could actually, benefit from this. And I could share with people my journey, my thoughts of what these quotes actually meant, so one is like prose is like architecture, it's not really literally walls and buildings and stuff like that, but it's, how you just kind of decorate versus the structure of your story. So that's kind of how it started. And then I think I'm up to like 75 quotes, and I keep finding more quotes, great quotes. And if you have a great quote, send it my way, because, I just love them.
No, they have been fantastic. And I think that a lot of us, it's not just myself, but there's a lot of us out there that need that motivational lift, because writing can be such a lonely journey.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we are, that's one of the benefits of social media, when someone, likes my quote post, and they're like, or they comment, even if it's just an emoji comment, I know that I've connected with them in some way, that I've made them feel something. And that's really all I ever want to do with my writing, is make someone feel something. And I know I'm using someone else's words in this particular instance, but that's all I want to do, is just have an experience.
Yeah, well, we certainly do that, because I've read quite a number, and I'm a fan.
Thank you.
So the two of you met through Wattpad, and you have written together quite a few stories, including one called We Blend, and I believe that there's author persona behind that, Willa Drew.
That's correct. Yes.
If I'm saying her name correctly.
You got it.
Yeah. If you could tell me, either of you could tell me about how that concept developed, both for the author as well as the story we blend.
I'll take the Willa Drew story.
Okay. I'll take we blend. That's how we work.
Perfection. I mentioned that we met on Wattpad, TBD, March to May 2020, and we became critique partners first. We read each other's work, and we started commenting on each other's stuff, and then at some point we took it offline, and we were reading and editing and helping each other through the structures of our books, line editing of our books, like the whole thing. At that point, neither of us even considered having editors or necessarily thought that's a possibility. So we were each other's editors. And it was a very, very honest and raw, but open and vulnerable process, because although you get sometimes critique partners, and I went through a bunch of them, that will tell you what is great. They don't tell you how to improve, or the reverse is true. They'll tell you everything that is awful, but they'll never mention the good things. And I think with DL, we hit that balance. I'm not sure I hit the balance because I still focus on the bad stuff, but she's really, really good at both championing the good and pointing out what could be done better. And it's kind of not afraid to get messy with it, where she just tells me as it is. And for me, that was super valuable. And because during that time it was COVID central, unfortunately, I spent December, I went to visit my in-laws right around December 2020, and I was interested in writing something short because I had a little bit of time on my hands and my kids were taken care of with my in-laws. And I reached out to DL and said, hey, would you like to write something together? Because we've pretty much been sort of writing or very deep editing each other's work at that point. Let's try writing together. And she's like, sure, what are we gonna write? And I was at a point in a book where I had a side character who was in LA, and she had a person in her Ruby Red romances who lived in LA. And I said, well, it's Christmas time, both of those characters happen to be in LA. What if those two characters meet? And that's how it all started. And that's the Christmas story that you read. And at that point, we were writing under our individual names, just stuck together. And DL is gonna tell you how the We Blend portion started, but that was for Kindle Vella. And Kindle Vella announced stuff in April 2021, and it was open to US people only. And there was about a month and a half or 2 months, something like that, between when they announced it and when the book needed to be published. And I knew that I would not be able to write something by myself. And I enjoyed writing with DL so much. I said, would you like to write something with me for Kindle Vella? Because I want to do it, but I'm not going to be able to do it myself. I just don't have the bandwidth, and it's also scary. So, and she said, sure, because that's how we work. And Kindle Vella did not allow to put two names on it. You have to put one name. They said you can't, like, otherwise we would have published it as DL Croisette and Gala Russ, but they say you have to pick one name. And that's how we spent some time on it. We were trying to figure out what the name would be, and we ended up with Willa Drew, where Willa is DL and Drew is me, because those are our father's names. Willa stands for William. That's DL's father's name, and Drew stands for Andrew. That's my dad's name.
Lovely.
Willa Drew was born.
Yeah.
DL.
Yes. So let me take over and tell you about how We Blend came about.
Yeah.
So as Gala mentioned, we started writing these short stories with two characters, Sarah and Nick. And we wrote the first one, and we had a lot of fun. That's all we can say. We had a lot of fun writing it. We also loved it, and it was romantic, and it had this like little cliffhanger ending, and that's all that was going to happen. But then we thought, well, Valentine's Day is coming up. We could maybe write another short story and continue the Nick and Sarah story. And then once we wrote that one, we're like, oh, we have to continue their story, because the Valentine's Day story is kind of like a, a missed opportunity story. It's very fateful, and the fates are kind of against our characters. So then we decided that we would write a whole series based on holidays. So we started writing the third book, which was Independence Day. And I literally, like moments before I got the message from Gala, I had literally written, this character comes in to side character, and his name is Will, and he's like, hey, I'm here, I'm Will, and he's like this cocky fun, he was going to be the life of the party against our two main characters. And Gala said, hey, you want to do this thing with Amazon? They're starting this new serialized serialized storytelling. And I was like, yes, and I have a character too. So we started with Will. And he plays in the Star-Crossed Lovers universe. Mm-hmm. And we had to find a character to balance him out. He's vivacious and cocky. He's from Germany, but he's in LA, and he's the one that goes out in the street and, busks and makes money, and because he can play guitar and he just gets things done type thing. And so we needed someone to kind of balance off of him. And we came up with Elle, or Melody, but she's Elle for short. And she has qualities similar to Will, very similar to Will, but she's never had the opportunity to really show them. She's led a very sheltered life, because she's the daughter of a very famous opera singer and a very famous rock star. And so, the paparazzi are always after her and stuff like that. So we paired these two together. And so we have Will and Elle, which we paired together to create We. And it's all about music, the music that they create together, because Elle is a singer. So we came up with We Blend as the first installment of their story. And notice I said first there, because there's going to be at least 2 more.
Ooh, yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit envious, because here in Norway we don't have Kindle Vella yet, but
unfortunately.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. I think. Do you think that Kindle Vella will be the next big thing? For, like, we had Wattpad, and that grew to what, 80+ million readers and writers. There's a lot of talk about Vella at the moment, and even though we don't have it here in Norway, we among my book friends, we talk about it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we hope. I think that serialized fiction is definitely has great potential. So we were talking to someone who actually lives in Japan, and they were saying that in Japan, I've never been. I didn't know this, but apparently, and I'm using someone else's story here, so someone please correct me if I'm wrong. But you're not allowed to really talk on the subway or on the trains. It's all very. It's not that you're not allowed to. Sorry, I don't mean to that. It's kind of frowned upon. So everyone's always listening to music or reading. So, that's why serialized telling stories in short chapters really works in that kind of, atmosphere. Same thing here in Canada, and probably in the US and Norway. When you're doing those little travels, we tend to, maybe because we get in our cars here, listen to more audiobooks, but I know I'm always listening to, 15 minutes of an audiobook as I'm tooling around doing stuff. But people, in other countries might be actually looking to read something, or as opposed to that. So I think that there's great potential for it, and I hope Amazon will broaden the scope of it. But we just have to wait and see.
Yeah. And I hear that your work is also in Radish Fiction. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yes. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is worldwide, so that's awesome, because we just put it up there because we wanted to bring We Blend to a wider audience, and shameless plug, if you go there, there's an extra 3 chapters there to a little bit more of Will and Elle's story to listen to read. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I've got my app, so I'll have to hop on.
Yay!
Exciting.
Yeah. So no, that's fantastic. It's what's the best thing about being Willa Drew?
I think for
Yep.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think for me, there's almost no negatives. I was trying to think what the negatives would be. I think there are almost no negatives. The positives are you have a partner in crime, and you mentioned that writing can be lonely. And this way, you almost have a automatic built-in support system. And the other thing is it's much harder to get stuck. If we have lots of stories around it, but if you are writing by yourself, sometimes you get to a point and you're like, Jesus, I just wrote myself into a corner. This is horrible. How do I get out of here? And we don't really get there because you almost always have another person's brain involved. You always have the other person's brain involved. And that happened to us one too many times when one of us writes to a point and then it's like, I don't know what's next. Like, why did I even write this? And then the other one comes in and is like, I know exactly where that's going. And then it's a little bit of that improv yes and type of a technique. So it's always exciting. It's always exciting. It's always exciting to see. It's a combo of reading and writing. Although we plan our story and we sort of know where the overall arc is going to go, each individual chapter, for example, if I'm writing it, I tell DL, do not look at it until I finish writing. And then we do the same. If she's writing a chapter, I do not look at her chapter until she says, okay, I'm done, now look at it. And then, for example, when I read her chapter, although I know, okay, in this chapter, there will be a party on the roof. And then I read it and I'm like, oh, that's how you interpreted it. So I'm really a reader. I'm like, oh, that's what she's doing there. Oh, there's fireworks. I didn't even think about fireworks. I'm like, oh, so now I'm reading and I get inspired. And you know, a lot of fan fiction happens because you read something and like you get inspired and you like want to keep writing for these characters. You want to give more life or more situations for this character. So this is also cute. You're like, we're fan fictioning each other's stuff. Because it's like, oh, she took the character there. What if I do this thing to the character now? So it's a very intense and pleasant feeling. For me, it's addictive. It's addictive to be writing with somebody who's so in tune with you and who's so supportive and who makes you feel better about yourself and who improves your writing. So that's my side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So exact same thing back to Gala, of course. And for me, I agree with all of that 100%. But I want to add to that. And this is what we do. We add to each other's to make things better. And I really think that that's what it is. You know, we have our strengths and our weaknesses. And then we have the things that definitely we align on. So, for example, I suck at writing dialogue. I mean, I think I've gotten a lot better, but only because Gala has led the way. Let me tell you. You know, like she can write a whole scene with dialogue. And I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. And then, you know, I'll come in and I love writing descriptions. And, you know, I can describe a pen for 4 pages. You know, sometimes I need a little editing there. But I do love, like, filling in all of that and coming up with the imagery and stuff like that. But what we really connect on is the emotion. We both love the emotion, the drama, the love of romance. So we connect on that, and then we make it better because we both, you know, it's like timesing things. Like, you know, instead of 1, it's times 2, and then it's times 4, and then it's times 8, and you know, it's just compounding. So I love that aspect of it.
It's not very often that you find an author who you connect with, because everybody has different writing styles, we're on different time zones,
yes,
different schedules, different things that are going on in life. So I'm glad the both of you found each other. So
are we?
Yeah. So what's the plan for the future? What's next?
Well, a lot more writing. So we, like I hinted at earlier, We Blend has at least 2 more full books in there, and then we want to finish the Nick and Sarah story. So that's the original one: the Christmas, the Valentine's, the Independence Day, and then there's 2 more holidays at least. We have some great things planned for our hero and heroines, and then we have some side characters that we wrote a short story for you, for Estelle, actually, for your anthology, that really inspired us. So we want to take that story and maybe expand it a bit. And then we have so many plans. I mean, I think we could write ad nauseum for the next 5 years and not run out of ideas.
That's
Would you
great.
agree?
Yes, we have at least 2 side characters that we know we're going to be writing stories about, in addition to Siobhan from the story that we wrote for you. Mm-hmm. But we also, I don't know if we should be talking about it, but I'm
we're going to.
We are going to reformat the We Blend series into a book. Mm-hmm. And we're going to self-publish next year. We're going to self-publish We Blend, and we are going to, the plan right now is to distribute it wide and to have it available everywhere. It's not going to be exactly the same as what you will read on Kindle Vella and Radish, because we were writing it in serialized fiction format with a lot of structures and chapter specificities to fit that format. So we are going to make it more book-like, mm-hmm. but the story will be the same. And hopefully people who are not fans of serialized fiction or have not heard about serialized fiction and read in a traditional book format would get to learn about our characters. And that's, for me, the exciting thing about next year. And I still want an audiobook, because the Nick and Paris short stories, a friend of mine and DL recorded that as sort of an audiobook of their own. We put it on YouTube, and that was sort of popular. And I'm an audiobook consumer myself, because when I run around the house and do chores and drive, etc., it's very convenient for me to do it. So I am looking forward to picking narrators and giving voice to Will and Alan, and have people listen to their story as well.
Yeah, lovely. Now, is there a possibility of it going as a paperback if I were to order it on Kindle?
That will definitely be an option. We probably will end up, and this is our first self-publishing journey, so we'll see how that goes. But so far, the way we have talked about it, we'll probably publish the ebook first, then we will publish the paperback. And now with KDP, you can actually publish hardbacks. That's a new feature that they opened up recently.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we probably will do both of those, and then the audiobook later on, because that's the most expensive part, because you have to pay the narrator. So that requires a little bit of financial planning on our part. And we have an exciting new cover design that artist drew for us. We're excited to show that one, and and we will have that made into the book cover. So once we have the books, those probably going to be the book covers.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I am a fan of paperbacks and hardbacks. I don't have very many hardbacks these days, but I would love to hold copies of your paperbacks. Signed.
I have one of yours right here. It was so exciting when I got it.
Well, hopefully this time next year I'll be holding a copy of yours. So
let's hope.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So is there anything else that you would like to add about yourselves that I haven't, that maybe nobody knows about, that you'd be willing to share?
I don't know that I have anything that nobody knows about. Just I think I'd like to take a moment just to thank anyone who's ever read anything of mine. It's really hard to get started, and Wattpad was an amazing experience from that perspective. And I know that there are tons of silent readers out there that I've never got to personally thank. So this is my opportunity. If you're watching, thank you.
I have something I want to tell about what's going on with DL that she didn't mention.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Okay. What's that?
Well, her book, Ruby Red, is actually going to come out And she's getting it published, and it's going to be available next year. I do not know why she didn't mention that part.
I'm so bad at self-promotion. If anybody else had a book out, I could tell you it is true. I'm very fortunate. Yes, I got a publishing contract, and Ruby Red is coming to the world off of Wattpad into the world next year in early 2022.
Oh, that is fantastic. I have been looking forward. I cannot wait for that. I can't stress again how much a fan I am of the Ruby Red series.
Oh, I think, thank you.
Yeah, I speak because I read a lot of books about the romances, and I felt that the female tended to lose the voice throughout the series of the different books that I've read. And I felt that Ali's voice just got stronger and stronger.
Excellent. That's what I wanted. Yay. I'm so glad to hear it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I will place this on YouTube, and there will be a link below the video with where you can find Willa Drew's book We Blend. So great. I believe, and it's actually a website, Willa Drew, beacons.page/Willa Drew author. So
yeah, you can come stalk us there.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.